Hello and welcome to Psychologically Speaking. I'm Dr. Gemma Leigh Roberts.
And I'm Erin, Shrimpton.
And this is the podcast where we explore how psychology ideas apply in the real world. So, Erin, today, what are we talking about?
Today, Gemma, we're going to talk about the pressures of socialising. Big topic.
Interesting. Lots to say on this one.
Yeah. So I think we can probably cover... there's so much we can say, as you said, but I think let's cover why do we feel the pressure to socialise? What is it? What's the psychology of that? What are the health benefits? Because we know that there are. And then an interesting one, the hierarchy of connection, like different types of connection.
Yes, let's go.
Okay, so why do we feel the pressure to socialise? Do you feel the pressure to socialise?
Oh my goodness, all the time. All the time. I think this is something that I have experienced a lot in my life, and it kind of, maybe I'm jumping in here a little bit, but it has got me thinking about whether I'm an extrovert or an introvert a lot. So let's dive into that in a moment. I think that I definitely do experience the pressure to socialise. I really enjoy socialising, and I love connecting with people I want to spend time with. I find it hard when I feel obliged to socialise with people I don't necessarily want to spend time with. But I also find it hard juggling it all. There are times where I want to socialise, but I'm exhausted, or you're back to back with meetings or work or parenting, and it's really, really hard to fit in. How about you?
Yeah, I feel the exact same. And I was thinking about this because I was wondering whether I struggle with socialising more since I've become a parent. And in some ways, yes, because, you just don't have the same energy as you used to, and you don't have the same time at all. And you and you definitely don't have the same freedom to go and socialise as much as maybe we used to. But actually, even when I was in my 20s, child-free, carefree, I still struggled a bit with this balance of doing enough socializing to keep me, enjoying my life and to keep me connected with people, but not too much that had me burnt out. And I always really struggled with that. So I don't think it is, it's easy, I think, when you get to our stage of life to sort of say, oh, well, it's because I'm, I've got a young family now and things are much harder. But actually, I think I always struggled with that. And I do think it is down to, there's definitely a kind of a dispositional aspect of it, as in whether you're introverted or extroverted, particularly that part of it where you get your energy from. So I definitely get more energy from... I restore my energy from spending time on my own, 100%. But then I also get a buzz from being with other people. So it's just really hard, I think, to find that right balance.
It is hard. And you can be so extroversion and introversion in the true sense of the words, in a psychology context. Extroversion is you get your energy from being around others, and you recharge from being around others.
Yeah.
And introversion is the opposite. So you recharge and get your energy, so recharging on your own. It's not how social you are. So I think we think of extroversion as whether you're social or not, and that's not what it is. It's how you restore your energy. I'm an introvert in that mostly restoring my energy is done well on my own. And I'm also someone that lives quite a lot in my head as well. So I'm always thinking, there's a lot of idea stuff that goes on in my head. But equally, sometimes I get energy from being around others. And it kind of depends who the person is, what the context is. I quite like small groups. I find big groups sometimes quite overwhelming. I like to have a good conversation. I like to get into it with someone. So that typically you can do that better with less people. But you can also be, you can be a social, think about this, Gemma, a social introvert.
Yep.
Which I probably am. You can also be a shy extrovert.
Yeah.
So a shy extrovert, I guess, would get that energy from being around people, but they might be quite shy in how they approach new people or new situations.
Yeah. I think I know people like that. And I always find it kind
I
of
do.
perplexing because I kind of go, God, you love socializing, but yet you are actually quite reserved.
Yeah. Which
but
is the perfect example. Like,
Yeah.
you're obviously getting your energy and enjoying that
Yeah.
process, but have that kind of shy, reserved element
Yeah.
as well. So it's, yeah.
Because I think so it must be ingrained deeply into our psyche to think that extroversion equals gregariousness and being outgoing, whereas actually that's not necessarily the case, is it?
No.
I think you and I are probably, and I don't even know whether this is really a technically correct thing, but an ambivert, where it's sort of like somewhere in between extroversion and introversion. Because I think I definitely do get some energy from being around people. And that's where this whole thing about socializing gets complex, because that's where I find it hard to judge when, if it was really clear that I absolutely always just got my energy from being on my own and being in groups exhausted me, well, it'd be really clear then. I would spend much more time on my own. But that's not the case. I often get more energy also from groups, from being with people or from meeting up with friends one-on-one. So I think a lot of people feel that way. I don't think we're alone in that.
I think so. And I think we need to really think about what's causing that social pressure.
Yeah.
Because that is something that I hear from people all the time. Like, I feel social pressure. I think I should be socializing or doing more, or being around people more, and I'm finding that hard. I know that's not everyone, but I think lots of people experience that at one time or another. So what's causing that social pressure? Is it our expectations of what we think we should be doing? Or is it based on judgment of others? So other people are telling us we should be doing that?
Yeah.
Or is it an innate sense of wanting belonging?
I think it's probably all of the above, actually. Because I was about to blame social media for it there. All those expectations that we place on ourselves on the basis of the fact that we see something on social media, like people having a great time on their holidays and the snaps that we see from people having been on fun nights out or big social events. But actually, if you think about it, those ideals we have built in our heads probably certainly if you're our generation, since well before social media existed. For example, even the show Friends, we just internalize that as almost like a schema of, this schema is a word we use in psychology to describe, the frameworks that we use in our minds to create kind of models of how the world should look. And that's a really good example of one where in Friends, you've got these 6 friends who have this ideal lifestyle. I mean, obviously they're always coming across all sorts of little issues and blips in their lives, but generally speaking, they're having a nice time and the issues resolve, and because they're enjoying their friendships together. And I think that we sort of internalize that as a bit of an expectation as to how life should be when we get older. So I don't think it is just social media creating those expectations. I think it's long ingrained from cultural representations of what friendships look like, what socializing looks like. So I think it's all of that. And then, I think there is that innate drive to be part of a group. Definitely.
I 100% agree. And I think that wanting to be part of a group, that belonging, that finding a community, we've evolved to need that. Like we needed that to survive when we lived in tribes. We probably to some extent still need that a bit for survival. I think if we were living in a world completely on our own, how long would we survive? I think we need support in all kinds of ways, whether that be someone listening to us or helping us through something, or it could be practical support, like looking after the dog or looking after the children, or stepping in when we need something practical done around us. So I think from a survival perspective, we're always going to have that need for belonging. And I think perhaps that clouds our judgment sometimes when we're not sure about socializing. So what are the health benefits of social connection? There are so many.
Loads.
from a psychology perspective, because there's obviously from a physical perspective, there are health benefits and things like how long we live, and there's evidence to suggest having a good social network or connections with people can help with that. But I think from a psychology perspective, it definitely can be an antidote to loneliness, which obviously we're seeing more and more of in the world. And I think that's an important point. I think that's something we have to take into account when we're thinking about how much we socialise and actually whether the pressure is worth it. So in a world where loneliness is on the rise, is prioritising social connection a must?
It's almost like something that you, and I don't want to use the word should, but something that you could add to your list of things that you want to do in a day to keep you healthy. So you want to get good sleep, you want to you want to get some good exercise, you want to eat a healthy diet, but you also want to make sure that in every day you're having some sort of positive social connection.
But we have to do that in a way where the pressure is not overwhelming.
Exactly.
That's the tricky bit.
Yeah.
And even when I think about my research, so my research on resilience, one of the biggest predictors of whether someone would become more resilient or could become more resilient was social connection and support.
Yeah.
And yet it's one of the things that we talk about least when we talk about developing resilience or how to become more resilient. Fairly often we focus on the things that you can do as an individual. So
yes.
the ways that you can build that yourself. And what I think is focused on less, which is a real issue and a real challenge, is actually this social connection part. And I can't tell you how many people, because a lot of my my doctorate dissertation was qualitative. So I had a lot of interviews. It was kind of various points in time. There's an intervention and lots of interviews over different points in time. I can't tell you how many times support, connection, other people were given to me as evidence of how resilient someone felt in a positive way.
Yeah.
So in terms of health benefits, we know that connection can help with loneliness, obviously. We know it can help build resilience. We know that it can help to reduce stress potentially.
Yeah, it definitely does. Reduces blood pressure. You know, when you're in a moment of connection with somebody or having a great conversation, it's shown that your blood pressure is lowered. Or if you're in a big group of people all enjoying a kind of a social moment together, heartbeats start to beat in tandem. It's amazing. Like it's incredible. So we know that there are so many benefits, both in the here and now, but also in the long term. There was that Harvard study, I think his name was Waldinger, who has done this 80-year longitudinal study that shows that the single biggest predictor of longevity and wellness in life as we get older is strong social connections. So the case for it couldn't be stronger. And I find it really interesting actually as well when I go into organizations, helping them go through change or deal with adversity in whatever way that they might be dealing with. I'm doing maybe it might be a workshop or doing some consulting with them around, how we can help the teams get through this. And I always sort of feel like saying, I'm looking at everybody going, you've actually got the single biggest, most important thing here right now in this room already, each other, And I know that might sound Pollyanna-ish, but it is actually true. It is true. The teams and the people who work together and build meaningful connection together through times of stress, through times of change, through times of uncertainty are the ones who will be more protected in the long run. So, but it's just, obviously that sounds easy, doesn't it? Oh, well, just connect with each other. It's not always that easy, is it? Because there's lots of other pressures that we have in our lives. So how do we prioritize connecting and I suppose strong social connections and meaningful social connections?
Well, I think that's the key there. Like strong social connections and meaningful. Because there are so many times that I've been in a room full of people and it has not helped at all in terms of feeling meaningful. If in fact, there have been times where I've actually found that actively stressful doing something like that. So I think that's one of the key points is, I guess, figuring out what kind of social connection benefits you. Now, I guess the flip side to that is how you want to connect with someone may not be how someone else wants to. There are other people out there who love a room of lots of different people to talk to. So you've got to, I guess, kind of meet somewhere in the middle with the individual or group of people that you want to connect with. But I also feel like over time, it's important to consciously try and find your people, your tribe, the people you can relate to. Because the chances are they probably want to socialize in a similar way, because that's probably one of the things that you connect over or enjoy about each other. I guess I would love people to be clear on what does meaningful connection look like to you.
Yeah.
And if everyone answered that, it'd be very different for everyone.
Yeah, it would be, yeah. So for some people, like I always talk about this with my husband, Dan, he says that going down either to the pub or around to a friend's house and sitting there for hours on end talking about the American football results, for him and his friends, that is a really meaningful interaction. For you and me, that would be absolutely
hell.
I mean, we wouldn't even have one sentence to say on American football. But, and so that's exactly right. There's different ways of connecting meaningfully with people, different topics, different things that, experiences that you've shared together. So yeah, it's all about working out, okay, well, what is it when I do connect with somebody? What kind of shared experience do I want to have with them?
And a lot of it is around a shared experience, because I've got people who I'm really close to that have children similar age to me.
Yeah.
So we will fairly often talk about the trials and tribulations of parenting that age of child. But then I'll have other people who understand what my work might be like. Or I've got other people who I've been really good friends with for years and years and years, and we've traveled together and we still do that. And that's the kind of thing that we connect over. What we have the same values, and we might see life in similar ways, or we might challenge each other in terms of how we see things. But do you think it's important to have like different types of connections in life for different areas of life?
Yeah, exactly. And that brings us on to the next bit. This is where we want to talk all about the idea of a hierarchy of connection, which we probably don't think about loads in our day-to-day, as in maybe not consciously, we don't think about, there's a hierarchy of all the different social connections that we have. But actually, I love the research by a psychologist called Barbara Friedrichsen, and she talks about micro moments of connection. And she's even found in her research, and she's a positive psychology researcher, she's found in her research that even micro moments of connection can lower your heart rate, reduce blood pressure. And that means that, so even the moments in your everyday when you're stopping and chatting to somebody at the school gates, when you're queuing for your coffee and you're having a chat with somebody next to you in the queue, or with the barista, or at the post office, or whatever it is, those moments do count as social interaction. You might not think of those as being meaningful social interactions, but maybe they are actually. Now, they might not be, when we talk about this as a hierarchy, they might not be as deep and meaningful as, say, a phone call between yourself and myself about something, that we're grappling with in our lives.
It's something deeply important.
Which is regular and and absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's useful to remember that, because what you don't want is to think to yourself, well, I've had a few days now and I haven't had any social interaction. Well, actually, maybe you have. You have had social interaction every day. And if you make sure that you do in one way or another, then it does all count. And
maybe we can remember that as well when we're forming habits around this stuff.
Yeah.
Because we go back to, the research is there. Social connection is really good for us. We also know lots of people feel the pressure with connecting socially, because lack of time, potentially lack of resources. You know, sometimes it can be expensive if you're meeting someone face to face.
Yeah.
Or not being able to juggle it with other things going on in terms of like life priorities. But the evidence is there that this is really good for us. So if we're talking about, okay, so how do we put all this together and make habits? Maybe prioritizing some of those shorter, smaller, micro moments of connection could be a great habit to form. So i.e., take the stuff back to the post office today. Don't wait till you've got... This is a personal example. Don't wait till you've got 15 pieces to take back. Like, take them back one at a time. So you might bump into someone, or go and get a coffee in the local coffee shop, or walk the dog. And without a doubt, someone will talk to me when I'm walking the dog, for sure.
Oh, Elvis is surely a micro moment of connection magnet.
Sometimes a bit too much. But maybe if we know this is good for us, we can start making that a habit. We can start making those small moments that, let's be honest, we can either miss or we can deprioritize because we think, oh, I haven't got it in me today. And in all fairness, there will be days you haven't got it in you, that you don't want to do that. And that's okay too. But I love this idea of like different types of social connection. If we're kind of looking at that as an easy one to tick off the list, perhaps low on the hierarchy, not in terms of meaning, but in terms of ease, in terms of how deep you have to go. Because, and I'll be honest, I haven't always got a deep conversation in me.
Totally. Yeah.
What some of the other ways that we could do that? So I guess like high on the hierarchy would be a face-to-face, catch up, maybe one-on-one, but not necessarily. It could be in a group. But it's something that takes a lot of effort, whether that be mental, cognitive, psychological effort. We've got to get yourself in the zone. It could be practical effort, like you've got to get yourself somewhere. It could be physical, you might need some time to get somewhere. It could be financial effort. Like there's all these things to think about. But I guess there you're more, potentially you might have deeper conversations in that moment.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they're more important than other types of connection, or if they're just harder to do. I guess that's our judgment to make for ourselves.
And if it's harder to do, does it make it more worthwhile? You know, we always kind of equate that in our minds, don't we? Something's really hard. It must mean that it's really good for us.
100%. But maybe this mid-level, like a Zoom check-in, a voice note. I mean, even a Zoom check-in, I'd say is quite like high level, because you've got to book a time, you've got to be somewhere. Where it was like a voice note or... we talk about this quite a lot, like memes to each other or a group, or they're like little moments of connection that actually mean something to the people that are sharing that.
Yeah.
But I like this idea of thinking, if someone is finding the idea of socializing overwhelming, or it's causing pressure or anxiety, maybe find ways to take some of that pressure off. Maybe you don't have to be building that connection in a way that is hard.
Yeah.
Maybe you can take some of these lighter touch things and actually notice them and appreciate them, because you might be doing this already, but maybe feeling guilty, like, oh my God, I haven't seen that person in ages. And I'm going to lose that connection. Or, but actually maybe you're doing it in a different way. Maybe you're doing it in a version, and the world's changing. You know, we live in different countries now. We have to think about how we connect.
We have to be really intentional about how we connect now. And I think that's a big part of all of this. And it's not surprising that social anxiety seems to be on the rise, actually, because if you think about it, once upon a time, there was a time when we would, if you were working in an office, you'd all be getting up 5 days a week, going into an office amongst lots of people. And even if you were someone who did potentially experience social anxiety, you sort of didn't have much time to think about it. You were just in there and you were doing it, and that was it. And you might have kind of overcome it because you were doing it. Whereas now we do have much more varied way of working, and actually also socializing. Even community building, we don't have as much community. The church is less of a central point in the community. I mean, in Ireland particularly, I know that has changed drastically over the last couple of generations, where, we just don't have the church as a central point of our community anymore. Actually, now it kind of revolves more around the school. If you have kids, those things are really very much changing. And actually it means now that we have to be so much more intentional about how we spend our social time and how we arrange our social time. So we don't just happen to have water cooler chats every day. We don't just happen to have a cup of tea after Mass every Sunday. We have to think about how we're building our communities. And I'm not sure we've all cracked it. Actually, I can't even say that I have. Like, I feel very lucky. I live in an amazing community where I live. And you do too. You've just moved to somewhere new, but you know that there is a great community where you are. And I feel like that is one of the most valuable resources in my life, actually. And I do think, there are still days, though, when I feel anxious about socializing and I feel, I don't necessarily have it in me to have a conversation with people. But if you make yourself do it, you realize actually it's almost always worth it.
That is sometimes hard, though, being part of a community when you feel like you have to be on all the time. You might be having a really bad day. Maybe this is a bit of a British thing, but there are times where I don't want to appear rude, but I really haven't got it in me for whatever reason. And that can be really hard. And I think sometimes pushing yourself through that is a good thing. But I also think it's okay for it to not be your time to socialize. And we should be okay letting ourselves off the hook if we're feeling the pressure or we're feeling anxious and it's not the time.
Yeah.
But again, all the stuff we talk about is about judgment, it's about awareness, it's about understanding yourself, understanding the context. And this one in particular is about understanding the context. And another thing I think is we often, in terms of we're talking about the hierarchy, so we've got these kind of small moments of connection that we could easily miss. And I have to be honest, I love those little chats. I love going to a coffee shop and someone asks you a question or you ask someone else a question. But I also feel like sometimes social media can be a bit of a red herring where we feel like we're being social.
Yeah.
But maybe we're not. But then sometimes we are. Things like sending memes, for example.
Yeah.
That can be really positive for a relationship, or sharing posts or something funny or something relevant to the other person. But I think it's also important to understand that, potentially when you're scrolling through lots of things created by people you don't know, it can feel like a social activity sometimes, but it might not be.
Yeah.
So I think that brings us on to the good, the bad, the blurry when it comes to feeling social pressure or feeling the pressure to socialize. So I'm not sure there's anything good about feeling pressure to socialize other than maybe highlighting that for some reason it's important to you.
I think that's a really good way of looking at it. Yeah. If it is important to you, then obviously you're putting pressure on yourself, but just notice that sometimes actually that expectation coming from you because it's important to you, or is the expectation coming from somewhere else and you're just trying to meet somebody else's expectation of you? That's where it becomes problematic, because you can't just continue on a hamster wheel of meeting other people's expectations. So that's a good question to ask yourself.
And I think it brings that up. And so in a good way, it helps you ask that question of yourself and challenge yourself. The bad in terms of social pressure.
I think you can probably exhaust yourself a bit if you end up socializing a bit too much. But you'll probably learn. I mean, I think I have learned over the years, not to overbook myself at the weekends, for example.
But do you think you're good at it? Cause I've learned that, but I still do it. Not every weekend, because I don't think I could actually physically survive anymore. But fairly often, I'd say once every couple of months, I find myself absolutely exhausted from something that I have optimistically booked in.
Yeah.
That perhaps in hindsight, organising is not my strong point. So maybe that lets me down a bit there. But I guess, maybe that's one of the bad things, not learning your lessons, not seeing the signs or making things too rigid, or you have to do something because you've agreed to it. And that's the way it's.
Yeah. And I think taking that bad as a learning for next time. You know, I know now that I absolutely do need a day. If I've had a heavy social couple of days, I will definitely need a day where I'm not really talking to many people or I'm only amongst my own family or, you know, or ideally by myself somewhere. And I know that now, but it doesn't mean I always get it right. So it's just about resetting and relearning it and not putting too much pressure on yourself if you get it wrong sometimes. I mean, there will always be social pressures. There will always be events on that you have to go to, and sometimes you just have to suck that up.
And sometimes you have to put it first. Like, again, we go back to this point, we know it's good for us. Yeah. So there are times where I really, really don't want to go out. I've agreed to something, I really don't want to go. I don't want to put my coat on. I don't want to get in the car or on the train. And I do it and I blimmin' love it. I get there and I'm like, this is amazing. This is why I agreed to this.
I think that's such a good point. And I think that's where this is. Let's move on to the blurry. I think it's where it's blurry because sometimes you'll do it. Sometimes you'll feel better for it. Sometimes you'll do it. Sometimes you won't feel better for it. But even if you don't feel better for it, you can still say to yourself, do you know what? It's still done me some good. It's like going to the gym. Like sometimes you do feel great after going to the gym. Sometimes you don't feel great after going to the gym. But overall, you still know it was a good idea to go to the gym.
And if, say you do it and you don't feel great, you can use that. Like use that experience. My advice here is like, don't beat yourself up about it or feel guilty about it. Because I think sometimes like, oh, by doing that, I then didn't do this thing that's also really important to me. And I can get myself in a bit of a spin around, I shouldn't be doing that. And why do I make that mistake? And but I think if you're learning from it and using that, because quite often stuff like, you know, if you regret something or you're disappointed, it'll tap into your values or tap into what's really important for you. And I think if you use that as a signal, if you use it as a sign, then you can learn from it and we can use that experience going forward. Okay, so what's our advice then in terms of...
I saw you eyeing the tombola.
I know.
You just can't wait to get in spinning.
I literally was about to go for the tombola. I thought, no, let's just finish with a final piece of advice and then I get to my pride and joy. What's our advice then? So my advice around this is look at building awareness around this about yourself. So learning about yourself. What kind of socializing in an ideal world, if you had a choice, what kind of socializing works for you? Is it big groups? Is it one-to-one? Is it a quick check-in virtually? Is it seeing someone once a year face-to-face? Like, what's your ideal world? And my other piece of advice is don't miss out on those little connections. Yeah. Because they could be little boosts throughout your week.
Okay, little boosts, definitely. Yeah. Especially if you are working remotely. Because yes, you probably will be connected to your team via Zoom, but don't forget to go and have a chat with somebody in real life as well.
Amazing.
So, tombola time?
Can we move on to the tombola?
Let's do the tombola. Okay, I'm going in.
Okay.
Right, I'm going to give it some welly this time. I've had some feedback from Frank and Miles that I don't give it enough welly. I'm worried it's actually going to fall off.
Oh, Erin. Wow.
How was that for welly?
That was definitely some welly bites. I'm going to pick.
It is a little fiddly.
It is a little fiddly.
Yeah, okay. Oh, that was a good one.
That was more of a scratch than a pop. I was going for the pop.
Tombola injury.
Okay.
Why are you looking at me like that?
See if you can recognise who this could... I didn't write this, but see if you can recognise who this could be about. I've just given that away. I hate answering the phone. Is that normal?
Did you write that?
No,
that could have been you.
That is... I mean, I'd quite like that advice. Yeah. So I'd like your insight on that.
I think it's absolutely normal. I think answering the phone is exactly what our brain does not like, because the brain likes, we've talked about this before here, the brain loves predictability. The brain likes to know what's about to happen, and conversations in themselves are inherently unpredictable. So conversations, actually going back to what we've already been talking about in this podcast, that's why a lot of us have social anxiety, because conversations in themselves are unpredictable. We do not know what the person's going to say. Mm-hmm. That's also why conversations are really good for our brains, because it's good to practice that, being in that unpredictable situation. Phone calls are even worse because you can't see the person. You can't see their intention you can't see their facial expression. God knows who's on the other end of that phone.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's totally normal. I think it's totally understandable not to want to pick up the phone. I think particularly for Gen Z, Gen Z, they are completely unprepared for the world of phones. In our day, we used to have to use the landline to ring our friends.
And how many hours every evening would we be on the phone?
On the phone to our friends for hours.
Yeah. People we'd seen all day.
Yeah.
You'd then spend hours talking to you on the phone.
And in order to get to that conversation, you had to ring your friend's home landline number and speak to their parents and ask to speak to this friend. And I think that was really good practice, actually, for us. But we're out of that practice, aren't we? We're out of the practice of ringing landlines, speaking to people, having that unpredictable experience. Because now it's much easier to just send a message, send a WhatsApp message, or a Slack, or send a voice note. So there are other ways of communicating, and we can deal with that in a way that's more predictable. Mm-hmm. We have time to respond. We don't have to be on the spot all the time. So it does cause anxiety. I can understand. It's totally normal. But I think we should lean into it. We've reinstalled our landline in our house because we have a 10-year-old, as you know, and we're trying to delay the purchase of a smartphone for as long as humanly possible. But he's complaining about not being able to speak to his friends. He wants to be able to message his friends. And we're going, okay, if you want to speak to your friends, let's all get landlines. You can ring them up on the landline. So he started, and it's really funny because the first day we got this landline, it is a portable phone. And he was kind of like pressing the number and looking at it, waiting for something to happen. I was like, you have to actually put it up to your ear in order for it to work. So we have some work to do there. But tell us from your perspective, because you do not like using the phone.
Oh my God, I hate the phone.
But you have had the practice of using it growing up.
Yeah.
So
Well, I've lost it. It just goes to show.
do you think you're just out of practice?
Well, it's a very good example of skills in life and how you can lose them.
Yeah.
If you don't use them, use it or lose it. You've actually just explained it in a way that I've never really thought about. I do think I find it, I get quite anxious. I mean, I'm not saying I'm an anxious person. I mean, maybe I am, maybe I don't know. But like, I'm not experiencing deep anxiety every time the phone rings.
Yeah. You're not socially anxious,
I'm
really.
not socially anxious, no.
I think I'm much more socially anxious than you are. I think I hide it quite well. But I think
you hide it very well. But then would you answer the phone? Are you more likely to answer the phone? You're more likely to talk on the phone than I am, I'd say. I don't even talk to Jake, my husband, on the phone when I'm away.
Like, no, I don't like it really either. Yeah.
And the kids, like I'll talk to them.
If I must.
If I must. But I find talking on the phone quite jarring.
Yeah.
And actually Jake fairly often asks me when I'm away not to talk to the kids on the phone because they get upset. And it's easier. I mean, it depends how long it is. If it's like, I don't know, a long, long time, I would. And they fight over the phone as well.
Oh, yeah. Phone. And then it becomes
actually,
unpleasant.
We've got to the point where I record little videos and send them to
I
each
think that's
one.
A good one.
And they'll record a video back.
But again,
it's predictable.
Phone avoidance.
Yeah, it's that. I think it's first of all, I get loads of phone calls and numbers that I don't recognise. Yeah. Never, ever, ever do I answer those. Ever. And quite often I will Google the number after to see if it's something I should have answered. But even I don't get a lot of phone calls. I think because I don't phone a lot of people, and I probably haven't always answered the phone, so I don't actually get a lot of phone calls. But I do think it is that. I think it's unpredictability. I'm out of practice, and I often feel the pressure if it's a phone call, but I've got to have a good conversation, and I haven't always got time.
Yeah.
So sometimes, finding space in the gap between work, kids, husband, like it can be quite tricky. I quite like booking a phone call. So we often book phone calls.
Do that. Oh, yeah, we do that. You're probably the person who I speak to on the phone the most, actually, if I think about it.
Yeah, probably. Interesting.
One of the people who I speak to on the phone, like my parents I speak to. You. I have a friend who every now and again does ring me randomly, which I quite like.
I've got a friend up north who I speak to on the phone.
Yeah.
that's the only like we obviously message, but like that's the main way that we stay in contact. And that I will always speak to her because that's all. I guess that's the thing as well. You get in these different modes of communication.
Yeah.
Like there's friends that I send voice notes to.
Oh yeah.
Because they send them to me, and there's other friends that I don't because I know they won't listen to them or they don't send them to me, so they're probably not really into them. So that's an interesting concept. But in terms of like, is it normal, this person? It probably is.
Yeah.
But as you say, it's probably a great skill to practice.
Well, let us know.
Let us know.
Comment.
Yeah.
On Spotify, YouTube. Let us know. Do you feel anxious answering the phone? Or how do you feel about phone calls? Should we bring back the landline? I want to know what people think.
Should we start a petition?
I think we should bring back the landline.
I don't have a landline.
Get one. I rang my landline this morning.
Oh.
Because my husband wouldn't answer his phone. So I knew.
How old school?
I know. I was like, I'll ring the landline.
Did he answer it?
Yeah.
Why didn't he answer his other phone?
I don't know.
And that's the other thing. I quite often lose my phone. It's on silent a lot and I can't find it. So I go through quite significant periods of time, like hours worth of time, fairly often at home, I can't find my phone. And I'll be like, Jake, can you ring it? And he's like, I'm ringing it. But when I put it on silent, I don't have vibrator on.
I know.
So I literally have to trace around the house,
The
like,
struggle is real.
in the washing basket, in the kid, like I have to move my way around. So there's another issue. I probably don't even hear the phone call half the time. Okay, so if anybody would like their question
in the tombola,
comment wherever you're listening to this or watching this, so YouTube, Spotify, all of that jazz.
Can you comment on Apple?
Potentially.
Yeah. Okay. Comment on Apple.
Wherever.
Yeah.
We don't discriminate. We'll take comments anywhere.
Carrier pigeon.
Carrier pigeon. Just not a telephone call. That's probably
no.
not
Don't
the
ring
best.
us. We won't answer.
Especially me. You'll answer.
I might answer if I fancy a good chat. I might answer.
Just don't ring me. It's best to leave me a voice note or send me a message. But you can DM us or the podcast as well if there's something that you want us to put in the tombola. But equally as well, like questions around like topics you'd like us to cover or things going on in the world, psychology questions, any ideas around that. We are happy to jump in and do our best. And also, whilst you're in the commenting mood, feel free to like, share, rate.
That one we need as well, don't we?
I mean, we're getting really smooth
Makes us
at this.
discoverable, apparently.
Which we need help with because this is a relaunch. This is our first series of the new updated podcast.
First time we're doing it in real life with each other.
Not on the phone.
Not on the phone.
And actually, that was hard. Like
I am
virtual
preferring
was hard.
it.
Yeah, me too.
For that reason.
Maybe this counts as some of our connection time.
I think it definitely does. Sure, that's why we're doing this.
100%.
Is so that we can have connection with each other.
100%.
This is keeping us alive, guys. Come on. All right, I think that's enough for this week, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, till next time.